starting to get the hang of this. By the end, I'll have it down pat. All right, more practical circuits. I still don't understand the name. Some of the things you can run into with receivers and transmitters is called RFI, or radio frequency interference. There's several things that can cause it. One is fundamental overload, where you're getting a signal that's so strong it's greater than what your receiver is designed to handle. And that causes all kinds of distortion. You can have harmonics when you're transmitting of your signal and multiples in frequencies of that signal. Now, according to the FCC, those harmonics are supposed to be, I think currently it's like 43 dB down from your transmitting signal. They don't like harmonics. Same for spurious emissions, where it's not necessarily a harmonic, but it's some other frequencies that are being generated due to intermodulation, which you don't need to go into. And you want to have those filtered out and suppressed also. So any of those things can cause problems with somebody's TV, radio, or computer, yours or your neighbor's. So which of the following can cause RFI interference?
D.
Okay, so if you are affecting your neighbor, you need to make sure first that your equipment is operating properly, that you're not generating harmonics or spurs, or you're overloading. You need to make sure that you don't have any loose connectors or anything like that, and that your own TV and computer and radio is not being affected.
Wow.
So those are all things that you should do before you go talk to your neighbor. Or when your neighbor talks to you.
Sort of your due diligence before you go shouting at them.
Yeah, seriously, Alpha.
So if your neighbor says that you're bothering their TV or radio.
Alpha, yeah.
Yeah, that's if they know that you got it, if you're doing it. I mean, if they don't know, like we.
Well, I mean, they know. They're going to see all your antennas sticking up on the house, and they're going to know you're a ham. So the first thing they're going to do is say it's your fault.
Yeah.
So what should be the first step to resolve non-fiber optic cable TV interference?
Delta.
I have no clue.
Now that was a
well, if the other one was check all your stuff to make sure it's not you. That would have to be that your TV, your coax cable. If you've got a coax cable.
Right. Yeah, I don't really like this one.
Fiber optics doesn't have. It's like my daughter has.
It says non-fiber optic because it would be very hard for you to affect them if they were fiber.
Yeah, but the coax, that's the line going into your cable, your DirecTV, all those other Xfinity boxes and stuff like that.
If you've got,
if I'm your neighbor and I have a little capture broadcast TV antenna somewhere, then this comes into play. I say, I can't get NBC anymore on account of your whatever.
We
You
talked
can't
about
if you don't have a digital antenna anymore, I guess.
well, you have to have the converter,
Hmm.
and we were talking about that at breakfast yesterday, and I guess they just come out with a version 3, so I don't know. I haven't had my TV antenna up for a couple of years. I don't know if I could still receive the new stuff or not.
I don't either. I don't use it.
Well, I used to use it when we had a hurricane,
Yeah.
and it didn't care about hurricanes. It worked fine.
Mine worked fine until one of my grandkids got a hold of the box behind the TV and destroyed it. Like, okay, I'm not putting up another one.
Okay, so we talked about fundamental overload. So, like if you're living close to a broadcast AM radio or FM radio station, you might be getting some fundamental overload. I know back home, some of the radio stations over there in Cincinnati, people that lived around them, when they were broadcasting, their electric lights would glow.
Uh-huh.
Oh wow.
Kind of says maybe you don't want to live there.
Mm-mm.
This is particularly bad if you've got a very low selectivity receiver, in other words, a cheap one. But you can put an input filter if you know the frequency range, and you can put a filter that would block basically a bandpass filter or band reject filter, or notch, to blank out that interfering signal. So it turns out that's something you might help your neighbor with if it's you or somebody else that's causing them a problem. So what would cause a broadcast AM or FM radio to receive an amateur radio transmission unintentionally?
Alpha.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to be on one of their frequencies. With enough power, you're going to have some harmonics and other things. They're very low level, but with enough power, they could still overpower somebody else's radio. So how can fundamental overload of a non-amateur radio or TV receiver by an amateur transmitter be reduced or eliminated?
Alpha.
Some other problems is FM broadcast interference.
Mm-hmm.
Can cause overloading of your mobile VHF or UHF radio. VHF really, because UHF would be too high a frequency for it to have much effect. And if you happen to be driving too close to that FM broadcast station, or if you live there, then you could, do a band reject filter on your stuff. So which of the following can reduce overload of a VHF receiver by a nearby commercial FM station?
Delta.
Delta.
Okay. Now, if your neighbor is interfering with you,
mm-hmm.
Okay, again, you need to make sure all your stuff is working fine. And then you need to be diplomatic and go work with them to figure out where the interference is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And then try to help them to fix it. And politely, because you don't want to make an enemy of your neighbor, inform them of the FCC rules that in this case they would probably be violating to no fault of their own. They just might have some piece of equipment from China or somewhere that really doesn't meet the FCC standards.
Yeah.
A good example is they put in a bunch of solar panels, or they put in a bunch of LED lights, and those, particularly the cheaper ones from China, generate all kinds of interference. And I don't think anything's being done about it.
Nope.
Like regular exterior lights, those dusk to dawn bulbs, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, even the solar panels, the converters and stuff, they generate a tremendous amount of noise. RF noise. So what should you do if something in your neighbor's home is causing harmful interference to your amateur station?
Delta.
Yep.
Okay. If if somebody says that your audio on FM is noisy or garbled or distorted,
Mm-hmm.
it means that you might be off frequency. You might have, if you're operating on batteries with your handy-talkie or batteries on your station, you might be low voltage because that can cause spurs and harmonics. You could just be in a bad location where you're getting some reflections and multipath type things. You could be getting RF feedback because of the fact you don't have very good grounding, you don't have any grounding or shielding. You know, you didn't put your ferrite beads on your cables. Or you may be over deviating. A lot of people hold their microphone right in front of their mouth and talk right into it, which can definitely cause over deviation. And then that gives a very distorted or garbled signal. It's very similar to having your microphone gain turned up too high. When you talk on the microphone, you should hold it so that you're at an angle so that you're kind of talking across, not into it.
Delta.
What's the symptom of RF feedback in a transmitter or transceiver?
Charlie?
Yep, Charlie.
Charlie. What can you do if you're told your FM handheld or mobile is over deviating?
Delta.
Yep.
Okay. So we learned all about RFI and using filters to block out signals. A little bit about harmonics and spurious emissions, which are frowned upon by the FCC. Some of the Chinese, particularly the early handhelds, the little Baofungs, were very bad about spurious emissions, and they didn't really meet the FCC standard. But I guess because they weren't made here, they eventually got them to do revisions in their, I think they comply now, I'm not sure, but they got better. what to do if you're interfering with somebody's TV, or if they're doing something to interfere with your radio. If you're getting FM broadcast interference, either move or do a band reject filter. Talk about distorted, noisy FM, RF feedback, and talking into the microphone properly. We still have cases on some of our nets where a couple guys, I think, talk directly into it because it really distorts their voice.